A wet and soggy edition of the Daily Ticket, and a good afternoon. It is a Wednesday, a Daily Ticket coming your way, still riding from the home studio, joined by a special guest to open up the show here on this beautiful Wednesday in the Delaware Valley, the great Kyle Fisher, back on the program. And be sure to find Kyle on all things socials. Kyle Fisher 45, real easy to find there. And of course, represent the team over at Philly Sports Network. I didn't think we'd be talking much NFL today, and I don't really want to talk too much about the play. But at the end of the day, man, it is the big topic, and it's just like it's still hanging on. And I don't see this going away, especially next year when they vote on it again. And maybe if they don't pass it next year, maybe that's when it rides off into the sunset, and it is what it is. But at this point in time, breaking news as of about an hour ago, the NFL has said that they will not ban the tush push for the upcoming season. They could not come up with the votes. I think they needed 24, 25 votes, whatever it was, and could not get to that number. Jason Kelce was brought in by the Eagles to go in and speak. And, look, what needs to be said has been said 100 different times, 100 different ways. There's nothing new to add to this conversation. It's kind of weak to see these teams come out there and say we want to get rid of it due to safety and whatever other nonsense they're throwing in there. Ultimately, it comes down to this. The Eagles are unbelievable at running that play. They just won the Super Bowl. They're one of the best teams in the league for the past few seasons, and it's definitely taking a shot at Jalen Hurts and the offense as a whole if they're able to remove that. I understand why teams are trying to do that. Like I said, it's pretty easy. If the Eagles were in the basement, if the Eagles were a 500 ball club, I don't think we're hearing much about the tush push. But because this team consistently competes for the division, has just won the Super Bowl, has had unbelievable success with that offensive line and Jalen Hurts, this is why we're dealing with it right now. But it's a great conversation for you, Kyle. Your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, you've already said a lot of the talking points about the supporting end, right? The argument is that there's player safety concerns, and I understand that some coaches that at least have mentioned we want to get ahead of injury concerns because there's no data to support that there's injury concerns with this play. I mean, people want to call it a rugby play. How many rugby injuries are caused by scrums? It's minimal. And those guys aren't wearing pads. We're talking about guys getting this close to each other. Yeah, it hurts. But it's nothing like running down and taking a guy's head off across the middle of the field on a bad pass. It's nothing like blowing somebody up or pulling them down for a horse collar tackle. The safety argument, until there's data to back it up, I'm throwing that out the window because there's no proof that is a dangerous play. I still think some of the things that people are going to have to answer for, right? Like Sean McDermott, they run a variation of the play. Josh Allen, big body, they maybe don't do as much pushing physically as the Eagles do, but when asked specifically, he was part of the committee that was around the safety of the play itself. When asked point blank, if the play, if your concern is about safety and the play does not get banned, are you going to use it again? If your number one concern is safety, you're going to put your guys in a not safe position, and he couldn't answer the question. And it's a question that he should be. The reporters in Buffalo should hold his feet to the fire and make him answer that.
Yeah,
really a concern of yours. Why on earth are you putting your guys in that position? So I think that that's going to be a lot of the fallout. But I think Eagles fans are just going to hold their cocky heads high after this one for sure. And if you're a Green Bay fan and Eagles fans personally, well, I'm sorry in advance for today because it's going to be a lot of grandstanding from Eagles fans for sure.
Yeah, and even if they want to ban it, even if they did ban it today, I still feel like the Eagles are going to be successful with the quarterback sneak and whatever variation of the play they want to throw in there, minus the pushing of the player. I'll tell you straight up where I'm at that might surprise people. Now, I would never want this play to be banned because simply the success that the Eagles run it at, like that's in the conversation there. But from me as a whole, I never liked the whole pushing of a player with that rule change back in, 2 decades, whatever it was, that they decided to remove that. Well, we know why they decided to remove that, because that puts points on the board. If there is a player
Exactly.
that's stuck on a 5-yard line and all of a sudden you get the 2 tackles running up and grab them, we've seen it happen a lot. Now, does it happen every game? No. But there is some sort of pushing forward of the player in every game. I would say that, but that results in points, probably not. But I've never been a fan of that. I've never been a fan of pushing the player forward. I don't like that. And I think that it's extremely beneficial for the offense. And we know how the league is built and what makes, butters the bread, points and things that help out the offense. I just never liked it, but I never really cared about it. And I don't now, except they're trying to remove a great play from the Eagles' repertoire, but it doesn't matter. Like, they're still going to be successful.
Exactly.
AJ Brown said it best yesterday. It's 1 damn yard. It's 1 yard.
I loved Mailata's argument yesterday. He said, I hope they ban it because I hate the name. He's like, we don't care. It doesn't make a difference to us. We're going to use it because we can, but it's not the reason that we win games. And if you watch the Eagles from an unbiased position and you think that that's the reason they won games, then you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to football. That is a great football team regardless. I think it was our guy, Jeff Kerr from CBS, who covers the Eagles for CBS proper, covers the Phillies for CBS Philly. He tweeted out something a little while ago when the vote was pushed back about the Carson Wentz quarterback sneak, which was not a tush push, had a higher percentage of success than the tush push.
Stop.
The Bills quarterback sneak in the last 2 seasons had a higher success rate than the tush push. So what are we complaining about? Like, again, it feels very, and I'm letting my fandom show for a moment, but it feels very personal when one team has popularized this specific version, and that's the only version that's on the table. I know that they did change some language late to try and get it across the line. A lot of the pushing and pulling. I think the original way that it was phrased is like you couldn't push somebody immediately after they received the snap from behind, but a few second delay is fine. And then they had to change that because they thought that, okay, this is way too specific. And it still didn't pass, right? So clearly people are comfortable with it. I agree with you. I remember, what was it, Reggie Bush in a college game?
The Bush push.
Where they had the play recalled right against Notre Dame. So that was, I remember a time where it didn't exist. And if they said, look, we just think the game played cleaner or played more like we envisioned before that rule changed, and we want to change it back to what it was, that's the easiest, simplest argument. And I think everybody says, sure. But when you start bringing in these other things, player safety, that's when it turns into a much bigger story.
Yeah. And like I said, now you're just motivating these guys. You want to remove it. You're giving the Eagles digital team something to work with, which is ammunition. Love it.
Why
what
give
they're putting out there.
anybody bulletin board material? I don't understand why.
Especially a Super Bowl champion.
Exactly. You'd think that maybe that team, not that I think this is the DNA of that team, but you'd think a team that just won may be like, and now you've just given them more motivation to get jacked up for week 1 once again. I don't think they were going to let the foot off the pedal, but people find any reason to put bulletin board material up. Like the Chiefs would talk all the time about, people doubted us. People didn't think we could do the three-peat. Are you sure? Because every single publication picked you as the favorites before the season started. Like, they're finding any reason. They heard one guy on one podcast one time say that they're not going to win, and they ran with it all season. Why give that to the defending Super Bowl champions?
And I do want to point this out because there is a lot of people that could have the bias in play, and I just feel like a strong majority, let's just say 80, 75, 80, 70, 75%, I'm saying, on my timeline right now, I'm seeing, say that, hey, look, like, there's no reason to ban this. You're just banning it because you can't stop it. And one team is really good at it. And it looks pretty weak. And I think that we're seeing that from a good, strong majority of people that are in, as far as the media is concerned, cover the NFL, whether they're a beat writer. Like, the majority of people that I've seen are on the common sense side of it. It's like, wait a minute, man. And like, don't you feel like I get it, right? Like, these things, when you draft a guy like Jalen Hurts, he brings this to the table. When you put together an offensive line like that, your strength is going to be running the football. But, all in all, there have been great plays over the years that we have been like, oh my God, no one's ever going to stop it. That's it. It's over. And then guess what? Somebody comes up with a plan and they stop it.
Exactly.
Like, It's part of the game too. I feel like the tush push, the brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it, eventually will be figured out to a point. And I don't know if that has more to do so with injuries or, Jalen Hurts gets out of the equation. Is this all on Jalen? Who knows? But all in all, like, I do feel like these things do get figured out majority of the time. So just let it play and we'll see what happens. But that's not how the NFL viewed it. They open it up. The rules committee, I thought it was going to be banned today. Diana Rossini was pounding her chest. Adam Schefter apparently was saying it as well, that he expected it to be banned, and it was not the case. So maybe Jason Kelce and his final thoughts had something to do with that. Speaking of final thoughts, your final word on this.
Well, I think you mentioned Jason Kelce. He's, everybody loves him. Why not bring him in, right? But yeah, I think there's not much more to say, Sean. It felt like a personal attack, and if the Eagles want to use that as motivation, great. But I think they're a good enough team that this vote didn't matter. It didn't make one iota of a difference. The only difference might have been that Saquon gets a couple more touchdowns and Hurts gets a couple less. That's about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, over to the world of Major League Baseball. Excuse me. Live radio,
Woo!
baby. Hey, on the sneeze. That was a go in there. Let's talk about the first place Phillies. Let's shift gears and get on over to the diamond. And the Phils continuing to win out there in Colorado, and not saying much because the Rockies are about as bad as it gets as far as Major League Baseball, as far as professional sports are concerned. 8-40 right now. They're 2-8 in their last 10, and now have lost 2 straight to the Phillies. Phillies have 2 more against Colorado. We welcome that. A good 4-game stretch here out there in Colorado for the Fightins. Back at it this evening. First pitch at 8:40 p.m. Taijuan Walker, come on down, -218. Quickly on this, unless you have a take on these games, Colorado's so bad. Like, you can't sit here and say, oh, take the Phillies at -218. Can you? Can you say it at -155 for the run line? I don't have a problem with that. I could look at the 11. I know Taijuan Walker's been pitching better this year, but 11, maybe Colorado gets into their mode, but that is a bad baseball team. I don't know if the Phillies are going up there and scoring 11 themselves. So even then, I would probably stay away. But I guess the big picture conversation for the Phillies is more, it's more entertaining to me than anything the day-to-day right now. And I hate to say it like that because nobody's won anything here on May the 21st. But the conversation about the bullpen, Alvarado being suspended, Mick Abel comes in. You're going to have Painter coming up eventually here. Ranger Suarez, we know what he's capable of. Taijuan Walker, what was said, what we've known, what he's doing now. Like the conversation about the bullpen and how do you figure this out from Dombrowski and Thompson moving forward is more entertaining than anything that's taking place on the field for me at this point in time with the Phillies. So I'm curious to know where do you stand on that conversation. And let's start with Mick Abel. We heard about Painter. I don't know. Like, I know people have been mentioning this guy. Don't get me wrong. Luke Arcani, yourself, you guys do a great job, but I wasn't expecting that debut. And now what?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I think he had the advantage of pitching against the Pittsburgh Pirates, first and foremost. I don't want to discount what the guy did. It's still major league pitching. It's still a major league team, right? Any team can go out there any day and beat another team just like any other professional league. But for him to go out there, the Pirates had every single potential stud in their lineup on Sunday. Any potential starter, any potential trade chip or young building block was in that lineup for that team, and he made them look like they weren't ready for him as opposed to the other, him not being ready for the moment. He had, I was there on Saturday, the day before his start, and he spoke with the team and his attitude. I remember hearing interviews with him last year where it was just trying to work through and grind through. And this off season, he really spent the time to refocus and re-establish his mentality, right? He's used to be a real fiery guy, very calm, cool, and collected coming into this season. And it was focusing on the things that you can control. You hear that a lot in sports, but it's easier said than done, right? And I remember it was Anthony Sanfilippo from On Pattison who asked him both in Lehigh and then again in Philly. You talked a lot about just getting 1% better every time you're out, 1%, these incremental moments. And he said, that can feel like a grind to a lot of guys, especially if it's not been the mental focus of your game forever. And he said, no, he's like, being here, regardless of the result tomorrow, which was an incredible result, that to him made it all worth it, right? It showed you what putting in the work can do. And you see a lot of the guys on the team having that. And the thing that I've noticed the most, I know that you probably want to hear more about the kid's electric start, but to hear guys from AAA and to hear Marshawn talk about this and to hear Abel talk about this, it is becoming an organizational message on focusing on the things you can control and focusing on incremental improvement as opposed to we need to turn it around right now, right? We need to do something right now to change or to swing things for us. Um, One thing that I remember in the Gabe Kapler years was it felt a lot like there was a
Gabe
disconnect
Kapler
between
years. I like it.
right. But it felt like there was a disconnect between the different levels in the Phillies organization. And what the club has done with Dombrowski and Mattingly, and they have really focused on organizational development. And I think that you're seeing the fruits of that labor. It may not have flipped on day one, but you see Mick Abel as an example. You're going to see Andrew Painter as another example. You see what Chris Sanchez, what they were able to turn him into, what guys like Marsh have been able to do on the rehab assignment and turn his season around. I think that the organizational message being consistent from level to level gives you a clear development path, and it helps show what this team can be, not only in the short term, but the long term. And Mick Abel was an exclamation point on that. So I know that you probably wanted to talk about his outing, which was great. But to me, it sent a much different message. Not, hey, we have a great starting pitching depth. It's look at what the organization has done. Look at what the organization is doing to develop talent, something that they may not have been prideful of a few years ago.
No, and it look, this is what you need to continue to compete year in, year out. You have to build it. And it wasn't, a fluke when the Phillies were able to go on that run and win the one World Series in 08 and then go on and have the success year after year after year. Now, again, they went out and made some great moves and did have some pieces. But yeah, if you develop it, you're able to maybe push some of those pieces into the middle of the table and fetch yourself somebody like a Roy Halladay, somebody like a Cliff Lee, somebody whatever it may be, and essentially you don't even have to go that high of a bar, right? Like what we're talking about now with the flaws of this Phillies team, and again, albeit caveat May 21st, is like, what are you going to do to replace Alvarado? That's got to be at the top of the list now because he was his best reliever. He was dominant. He was a guy that could strike the bases out loaded,
For sure.
And with nobody out. Like you felt comfortable majority of the time as much as possible with him coming into the game. But we'll see how they handle it. We'll see what happens there. I know that they could always use a bat, somebody to come in. And again, we know that injuries are going to poke their head into the conversation as well. It's a fact of the matter. It's a long season. Everybody goes through it. But now Mark Henry Jr. and I were talking yesterday about, well, come October, come September, what does it look like for you? Do you think Ranger Suarez will be in the bullpen for a playoff run? Do you think one of or both Painter and Abel will be in the bullpen come playoff time? I do. I like, if these guys are up, they're going to pitch, they're going to play, and only so many players or only so many pitchers can get the starting spots come playoff time. So I think that those three names could, at least two will absolutely be in the bullpen, maybe three. And I'm even pushing the fast forward button on Taijuan Walker. Whether that's unfair, who knows? He might get traded. We'll see what happens there. But, and if that's the case, Kyle, long-winded, like, I think the bullpen's in a pretty good spot. I get it. Young players, you're asking a lot that spot, no doubt about it, but still got plenty of time to build up. But I think that the bullpen might not be that much of a issue if that's how the final result's going to look come September.
Yeah, I mean, you need to get there. That's the key, right? Is I think that if everybody remains healthy, you nailed it, right? You're going to see Suarez most likely, just because he's done it before, in that bullpen, being your emergency guy, pitching 2-3 innings when you're more likely to pull the starter in a quicker manner in the playoffs. I don't know. They seem to not want to put Painter in there. I think that they're worried about him ramping up and trying to throw harder. Everybody's stuff plays up a little bit in the bullpen. Coming off the Tommy John, I think they're worried about that becoming too stressful on his arm. He already throws pretty hard, and coming off that surgery, I think they want to reserve him. So I don't know what his innings are going to look like come the postseason. Even, we need to see what his innings look like when he gets here first. I would hope that if you're bringing him up and giving him major league time, that and you find yourself in a position where you need an arm in the bullpen, that he's an option, right? But the other option would be to put somebody else there who might not be as comfortable either. So I just envision like what the Rays did with David Price, right? They brought him up in September. He was supposed to be a hot shot starter. He went to the bullpen and was lights out on that one playoff run for them. And then they just stretched him back out in the offseason. I think it was Ruben Amaro on the Phillies show podcast who suggested, while Ranger has the experience, he said that if they're forced to move somebody in the bullpen because they have so many arms, Christopher Sanchez might actually be the best option for that. And while I'm hesitant to take him out of the rotation, if everybody else is pitching as well as they are, his stuff already plays up. He's throwing more 97, 98, whereas Suarez falls around 94. If he's playing up to 99, 100 in the bullpen, he already has the contract, whereas Suarez is in his last year. So you can probably comfortably go to him and his agent and say, look, this is let's get through and go try and win a World Series with our guy pitching in a different role. He's pitched out of the pen before, so it's not foreign to him. And then there's some sort of guarantee or a handshake agreement, and the second the season's over, we expect you to be back in that rotation as one of our top 2 or 3 arms in the 2026 season. So I think that they have options, which is something that you rarely see. And they don't have a whole lot of options to shove guys in AAA. So they have to figure out ways to get creative in the bullpen. I think the struggle becomes if you want to reserve certain guys for longer outings, then you're pushing other people into high leverage roles that maybe they're not comfortable being in as of yet, right? Joe Ross has looked good at times. Is he comfortable pitching in a high leverage role? He hasn't done it to this point in his career, right? He's a former starter, turned to a pretty solid reliever last season. They thought solid enough to bring him in, but they expected him to be a 2-3 inning guy as opposed to a guy who's pitching the 7th, 8th, or 9th inning. Not that he can't, but he hasn't shown that he can just yet. And that's always a thing with bullpen arms for whatever reason. No one trusts that you can do it until you show that you can, right? Even Matt Strahm, everybody knows how lights out he is. But when he first started pitching in the 8th inning, I remember a lot of Phillies fans being weary, like, is this what this guy really does? He's more of a long man, more of a 6th inning guy, not the 8th inning. And then over time, you see how electric he is and he can do it. On the flip side with Orion Kirkring, right? I think he's performed well, but it looks shaky at times. It looks like 09 Brad Lidge instead of 08 Brad Lidge, where every time you get somebody on, you're like, oh, goodness, what's going to happen here? Even though Lidge still ended up having a decent year for the most part, and Kirkring's numbers are pretty good, until he shows that he can do it, can you trust that he can, right? So I think you're more looking at a bullpen addition come deadline as opposed to forcing somebody. But between now and July, they're going to have to figure it out, and they're going to get creative. Aaron Nola's health is going to be the number one thing that determines what they do next. Because if Walker can go out there and play up a little bit and pitch like he did in his first relief outing, especially, not that he pitched poor in the second one, but that first one was lights out with 7 strikeouts over 3 innings. I think that he's a viable option back there. And they've pitched better as a unit as of late. They're still not top of the league. They're not the Mets necessarily, who are, I think since the beginning of May, have like a sub 2.5 ERA out of the pen. But the 3.77 in the month of May is much improved on the 5.06 through April, right? So if they can see some consistency and some guys get comfortable back there, then they're in an advantageous position. The question becomes, are they the first ones calling around, and are people going to hold their feet to the fire to try and maximize the value on a bullpen arm at this point in the season?
Well, you did bring up Ranger Suarez there, and we did talk about Ranger and talk about his agent, Scott Boras. Interesting to see how that conversation will be had at the end of the season. And I'm sure they're talking now, quite frankly. I believe Alec Bohm is represented by Scott Boras as well, correct?
I'm not positive.
I'm 99% sure he is.
You might be right.
Yeah, he is. Coming around to the offensive side of the game for the Phillies here. Bohm coming through. Harper's ripping the cover off the baseball. Schwarber continues to go yard, 300 bombs. Just getting it going again. And this team has the look, albeit on May the 21st, not even Memorial Day, but it's a lot of fun to tune in and watch this team play, regardless if it's the Rockies, regardless if it's the Sacramento / I'll always call them the Oakland A's. Braves coming to town next week as well, post Memorial Day, so that's a pretty good run there. But ultimately it comes down to Phillies fan tuning in, want to be entertained, and enjoy the hell out of some winning baseball. And that team right now has the look, and it's a lot of fun watching them play. And I don't care who they're playing, whether it's Colorado, last place, worst team in the history of sports, or a team at the top. This team has an opportunity to win some games. So a lot of fun. And we didn't even talk about Wheeler. We didn't talk about some of the other bright spots with this team.
Yeah, there's so many positives. It's tough to cover everything. The one thing I've said to my son, he keeps bringing up like, oh, they played the Pirates and the Rockies, so of course they look good. It's like, but traditionally, some of the concerns about this team, and from every fan base, is when you watch your team play down to the competition. And they're not doing that. They're doing exactly what you're supposed to do against these teams, right? They took care. They beat Skeens 1-0 on a run that barely scored, right? But they did what they had to do. The bullpen did what they had to do. Abel did what he had to do. They've put up 17 hits in 2 straight games. Yeah, it's Colorado. It's a big outfield, but most of them haven't been the long ball. They had a few home runs late in the game yesterday, but they've done damage the way small ball. They've done traditional damage, singles, doubles, bunts, sack flies, getting guys over, hitting behind runners. The things that wins championships is what they've done this last week plus, right? Whether you win a series or not, like you said, to watch them and to see the excitement on the field. They're not struggling to beat the Rockies. They're taking care of business and making it look easy like it should. They're not struggling against the Pirates. They're taking care of business and beating them in a way that you should, that someone would expect of a World Series caliber team. So to me, that's the biggest thing is they're not playing down to their competition. They are beating teams in the way that you should beat them, whether they're high level competition or not.
Yeah, the only issue that I have right now with this team was a stat that was put out there by Tom McCarthy when Bohm hit the go-ahead home run in the 8th inning, where I think there were 1-15 in games that they trailed after 7 innings. And that, look, I don't know what that number is going to be, what that record will be at the end of the season, but generally speaking, those things have a way of evening themselves out. Again, if you're winning ball games, you're going to have some tough losses. Get it? But you could examine it and you could go a little bit more detail with it, and where a team lacks the ability to come up with a big hit. If it's not Schwarber going yard, who is it? Those sort of conversations, I think, still too early to be had here on May the 21st, 4th time that I mentioned the date, but it is something that should have your attention. It should be something that, this is a team we'd like to see have the ability to come back and win some of those games. We'll see what happens, after a few more weeks of action, a few more weeks of gameplay. But this team right now, first place in the East, and there's not a complaint coming out of my mouth at this point in time. No complaints.
Are you excited about the potential to bring back David Robertson?
Oh, God.
For the 3rd time.
Yeah, that's why I was like, wait a minute. You mean to tell me there's nobody in house? Like, you really got to go dial him up? But regardless.
He was okay last year.
Yeah. Dombrowski's got his ways. He knows what he's doing.
Yep.
He's going to stick to the script. I mean, he's no dummy.
For sure.
All right, let's go ahead and switch gears once again. Phillies coming up tonight. That game, DraftKings Sportsbook currently showing that the Fightins with a Taijuan Walker on the mound, a nice big favorite of -218, total coming in at 11,840 first pitch. Yes, over to the NBA. We do have some other items going on in the sports world. Let's just put it that way. Pretty good one last night as far as the Western Conference Finals Game 1. Timberwolves and Oklahoma City Thunder. Big time number, and OKC rolled in the second half. They were given 7.5. Tight game in the first half. Minnesota looked really good at points, and then you just kind of had the vibe that OKC was going to figure it out and be the better team in the second half. They were, and then some, holding the Minnesota Timberwolves to, I believe, 40 total points in the second half, if I'm not mistaken, which is just ugly. But bottom line is, I don't think we should be all that surprised, because we're talking about one of the better teams, if not the best team, when it comes to defense. I believe the Oklahoma City Thunder were the best team in NBA all season long, regular season, as far as defense was concerned. So no shock there that the defense led to the victory. And Minnesota held the Thunder to 44 points, and that was all she wrote right there. 40 points by Minnesota in the second half. I had it right the first time. Anyways, you look at SGA and what he's been able to do as far as MVP all season long. it just feels like that OKC will be the team that prevails and comes out of this. I know that I kind of in my mind was thinking that this is going to be a great series. I was hopeful, and it's only one game, but OKC does look like they're deeper. Does look like they have better scoring options, and the home court is pretty important this time of year as well. So no surprise that they did win. I did take the 7.5 last night, so I'll chalk up a loss there. Oh well, it happens. But man, hopefully SGA can lead the charge for game 2 and just keep it going for OKC. Your thoughts on game 1?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was a typical Oklahoma City defensive route. The second half, especially 40 points in an NBA game and a half, is rare nowadays, especially regardless of how good your defense is. So to do that against a team the caliber of Minnesota is extra impressive. Anthony Edwards said, we got to figure some things out. The field goal percentage was pretty low for some guys on their team. Their bench was a big problem last night, not what we've seen from them all season long. The turnovers, there's a way to play against tough defense and not turn the ball over. And that was the big thing. I think they finished with turning the ball over 19 times last night.
Mm-hmm.
You can't win a game regardless of how big, regardless of the opponent, if you're turning the ball over 19 times. I don't care how good their defense is. You need to hold on to the ball, especially come playoffs. So they'll go back to the drawing board. I still think it's not going to be a quick series. I don't think this thing's over in 4 or 5. I think Anthony Edwards on his own is just too good to give up. But you have some really good veterans on that team, and Randall and Gobert, that can help them. The key is going to be, can the bench do a little bit more than they did to not put all that pressure on the starters. But Oklahoma City looked like we thought they would. I don't know if we thought that they would look that dominant in the second half, but none of this is surprising from OKC. It's more surprising to see how Minnesota looked on the other end, as opposed to OKC
really shied away from the moment in that second half. Again, easier said than done. You're going up against the best team and dominant. I think they were 19 games better than the Minnesota Timberwolves in the regular season. And here we are in the Western Conference Finals. They're going head to head. Kind of seems unfair, but no one cares about that at this point in time. You got to win 4 games and advance to the finals. And by the way, neither of those two teams have won an NBA championship before, so it would be a first time in NBA history. With that being said, let's get on over to the Pacers and the Knicks. And I'll tell you what, this is the hot topic in all of sports right now. From coast to coast, all eyes are on the Knicks and Pacers game 1. Of course, we know what took place last year in this series, Pacers getting by the Knicks. We know that the injuries were a huge concern and ultimately really cost the Knicks an opportunity to advance last year. Whether that's true or not, or you believe that or not, doesn't matter. Ultimately, it came down to the Pacers advancing. So here we are right here, right now. As my guy Danny Small checking it, is Brace a Brunson believer? I've always been a Brunson believer. I've always been a Brunson believer. Now, backer is a different story, but a Brunson believer, I love Jalen Brunson. You got the Knicks. As much as I hate the Knicks, you got to believe, man, like this isn't a fluke. This team has put it together, and they are battle-tested. They've been down by 20 to the Celtics to come back and win that. That was a tough Detroit series that they were able to prevail in. I don't really look, as we sit here right now, I want the Pacers to win. Don't get me wrong, but I can't tell you that I believe that that's how it's going to be. I know that there are a few guys on the Gambler Gang that do feel very passionate about the Pacers winning. I'm not one of them. I am not one of them. And quite frankly, Kyle, from me to you, as just a sports fan, I don't know if I want that either. Like, I don't want to see the Knicks. I don't want to see Knicks fans gloat and be happy. And they're just absolute maniacs outside the Garden. I get it. We the same way. But when it comes to the NBA Finals next week or 2 weeks, whatever it is, first week of June, are you going to be more inclined to sit down and watch Oklahoma City versus Indiana or OKC versus the Knicks? And I'm pretty sure the majority of America are absolutely in agreement by saying, give me the Knicks.
Yeah, if I wasn't from Philadelphia and grew up a Philadelphia fan, the Knicks is the easy answer, right? There's no way to say that the excitement and the history and the hoopla around that team won't be more exciting to watch in the championship.
Absolutely.
As a lifelong Philadelphia fan, please don't let them win. Please, anybody do whatever it takes to
So-
eliminate the Knicks.
So would the
championship.
best case be for us for them to get to the finals and lose? Like, okay, we get that next step, or no, we just want them eliminated right now. I'm pretty sure that I could say right here, right now, I just want them eliminated. Just get rid of them.
Yeah, I just think I want them eliminated. But I mean, they already get to hang over our Sixers fans' heads. Like, hey, where's your conference championship at with your MVP? Where's it at? So, or where's your conference championship appearance?
Yeah.
Tell
This
us,
point,
yeah, where's it? Make it there, then you can talk to us, right? So there's
God.
plenty to say. And the frustrating, like, I'll never forget watching that crowd come in to Philadelphia and take over the Wells Fargo Center. How much I hate to admit it, they did. It was obvious on the broadcast, and they will be ungovernable if that happens again. Boston, they don't really come down for games like that. So if
New York's
Boston
crazy.
won, fine, right? But New York, they're just like us. It's just been a while, right? So they're going to be more unbearable the next couple years. Indiana, their fans don't really show up to the Wells Fargo, so I'm fine.
Definitely not. Yeah, they're not making the trip.
But the more exciting one, neutral perspective, it has to be the Knicks. It'll cause a stir for sure that hasn't been seen in the NBA in a little bit.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's like, all right, I'm trying to weigh it out here, but look, none of that matters. All that matters is this is going to be a great game. It's 4.5. You got the two stars between Halliburton and Jalen Brunson, the way that they have commanded and run both of their offenses, and just it's been a lot of fun to watch both of those players really over these last few weeks. But if you've been paying attention to the league in the last two seasons, you know that Halliburton and Brunson have been two really damn good ball players. So, but do you know the team wise, I look at the Pacers and I just give them a slight edge from top to bottom as far as team depth is concerned. They run deeper. They shoot a bunch of threes. I know what the Celtics just shot a bunch of threes against the Knicks. Didn't work out for them. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm going to be this expert handicapper on this one. Flip a coin. If you're a Knicks fan, good luck. If you're a Pacers backer, good luck. I could see game one going to Indiana. Of course, I could see game one going to the Knicks. I could see this series going to the Knicks. I could see the Pacers beating the Knicks like they did last year. So this is why there's only 4 teams left, 2 series left to get to the NBA Finals. Good luck to everybody out there. But with that, 4.5 was our number yesterday. Still holding steady at 4.5 right now. 222.5 is our total in this one. And again, when you start to talk about these two teams, my mind automatically goes to Brunson and whether or not there will be somebody out there that can at least limit him, slow him down, shut him down, whatever it may be. And I don't know if that player is on the Pacers roster. So I think Brunson's going to continue to weave his magic in and score 30 plus and to be that focal point for the Knicks offense. I just think that the Pacers can hang. The Pacers aren't scared. They came back from a few times in that Cleveland Cavaliers game. And then, like, as soon as I'm saying that, Kyle, immediately what I think about is the fact that the Knicks were down by 22 times to the Celtics and won both of those games. So it's like these two teams are here for a reason. Good luck.
Yeah, it's two very gritty teams, two teams that play a similar style of basketball. Not exactly the same, obviously different skill sets across the teams. But when you think about team basketball, depth basketball, that's what these guys play, right? And yeah, you may limit your depth for a playoff series, but these guys play like they know the next guy has their back. And it's not always the case, even in conference finals and NBA finals, where you see teams play with an attitude of the team is going to win this, even if we know who our stars are, right? If they can somehow limit Brunson, he doesn't care, right? If he scores 18 instead of 35, he knows that somebody else on that roster is picking him up. If Bridges has to have all of his focus on the defensive end because that's what's going to be beneficial to the team, he's going to do that. Or if at the midway point he realizes, hey, I need to turn it on the offense because these guys need a little bit of help. They've done that in this postseason so far against the defending champions. So to me, I'm excited to watch it because I think it's just going to be a gritty series. You know me, I'm not diehard NBA guy, but watching these two teams all season has been fun from a basketball perspective. So to see them face off on the biggest, well, next to biggest stage, but on one of the biggest stages is going to be interesting. It's going to be entertaining. It feels a lot like for Philadelphia fans out there when people talked about, oh, it's a matchup of, Eagles and 49ers, yeah, we know they're elite teams, but it's the battle of the two best teams overall. I'm talking strictly Eastern because I know what OKC did all year, but these two guys, these two teams have been two of the deeper teams all season long. They've stayed healthy enough to survive the grind and get here, and I think you're going to see that in display the entire time, the entire season.
Three times matched up this season. Knicks took 2 out of 3. First one took place on October 25th. Second one, November 10th in Indiana. Pacers ended up winning that one, 132-121. We were 3.5-point home dogs. They were also 2-point home dogs in the final matchup on February 11th, where the Knicks won 128-115. A lot has changed from that point in time of the season, no doubt about it. But the Knicks still are the favorites here, 4.5. Which would be the highest number as far as the series is concerned all season long for these two teams here. We know what these two teams have been through in these last 2 series to get to this point. But bottom line is, man, we got some really good scores, great coaching going on, solid teams. No fluke seeing the Pacers in this spot. And for my money, no fluke seeing the Knicks in this spot. That was a hell of a victory over the Boston Celtics, and I don't think overstating it at all. With that being said, hang on one second. With that being said, quickly on this, the futures market as far as winning it all this year for the NBA Finals. And if I could thank you, Team Futures, keep it simple. DraftKings Sportsbook, of course, OKC with a leg up on everybody, 1-0 in their series, minus 200 at this point in time. Knicks plus 475, Pacers plus 700, T-Wolves plus 1,000. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that I'm not big on Destiny talk or Team of Destiny at all, but it sure started to feel that way with those back-to-back 20-point comebacks, didn't it? I mean, over the defending champs, the Knicks, they felt like this was going to be the year for them with those two epic comebacks, epic stops by Bridges. I know that wasn't the end of the series, but to see them pull that off, it kind of felt like, oh, this is the team, isn't it?
And it's crazy too with these two teams and the history, and of course Reggie Miller back in the day, 26 years ago, 25 years ago, for both of these teams making the Eastern Conference Finals. The Knicks won an NBA championship back in '72, I want to say. Pacers have yet to win an NBA championship. So 3 out of the 4 teams that could potentially be playing in next week's NBA Finals have yet to win a championship. So somebody will. And of course, as I said, with the Knicks, haven't done it for a long, long time. So we got some new blood, and that's exciting. Whether it will be an MSG meltdown or another Jalen Brunson masterclass, we shall find out a little bit later this evening. Once again, 4.5-point spread on that one. All right, I want to close up shop on this one. Fun hour to get the party started. We do have some great programming following this show here. X is into you, Sebastian too. My guy Matty G and Adam Booth back at it again, talking all things Philadelphia Union, who are on fire right now. You paying attention to the Philadelphia Union MLS soccer, Kyle Fisher?
I have not been able to pay attention to much Union, Sean, so I'm going to defer to you on how hot they've been. But
they're on top of the East right now, tied 29 points. How about that? I full disclosure, I got so much going on. I pay attention, but it's a long season, so I don't really get caught up in the standings. But when I did see the other day that they were one of the best records in the MLS, it's crazy because they fired Jim Curtin, the head coach, who's been here forever. He's my guy. I love Jim. And I didn't think that they were going to have the success that they've had, albeit early in the year. But, man, it's been a lot of fun to pay attention to. Even better that we have a podcast that has the second all-time leading scorer in Philadelphia Union history featured on it in Sebastian.
There you go.
Check that out. That's coming your way next here on The Gambler. And then at 5 o'clock, you'll like the title of this one, Ryan Beef Coyle and Nick McClay back with another edition of Football is King. Yes. They cover college football, NFL. They're going to hit you with everything that's taking place, including a little tush-push conversation and the schedule release. Anything for you on the schedule release last week?
I found it interesting that they had no back-to-back home games. I don't think that's on purpose. I think it's just the way that the schedule and travel worked out. But they're the first defending champions ever to not have back-to-back home games the following season. So, again, don't think it's on purpose. Just think it's a coincidence.
Oh,
but
they hate us.
That's probably the most interesting. And what they're the first the first team ever to have 10 plus matchups against playoff teams from the year prior. So two things that stick out. Again, I don't think any of it was on purpose, but if you're a conspiracy theorist, you can see that two first time things with the schedule plus tush push dominating the conversation in the offseason. What are they trying to slow down other than one of the best teams in the league? So
I do
those are
think
the
it is-
interesting takeaways.
I do think it's a difficult schedule.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, like,
Yeah.
again, 10 plus games against
Yeah.
teams that just made the playoffs. You can't really argue that it's an easy schedule. Doesn't matter how good you are.
No, you're right. And I guess let me just back it up and phrase it like along the lines of when we get these schedules that come out. I'll just go back to last year. I remember looking at last year's schedule going, not the most difficult. I remember saying I didn't like the bye where it was, and then that worked out very well, right?
Yeah, right. Perfect
But
time.
there have been times like when a schedule comes on, you're like, all right, that looks pretty easy, and it turns out to be difficult. So it's like you can't really get caught up too much. But when you do look at who they have to go to, where they have to go, such as the specialty or the primetime schedules, the Chiefs on the schedule. I guess it starts and ends with the teams that you have to play, number one. But then you do focus on who are they playing the week before, when is this game being played. But you're right, when you're taking on the Detroit Lions, who are going to be a good football team, when you're taking on the Buffalo Bills, who are going to be a good football team, when you're taking on the Commanders actually have a different feel this year than ever before in a long damn time, right? I said, Kansas City, this is a tough schedule. So again, we'll see how it plays out. Long way to go, but pretty cool to get.
There's a good chance that I will actually have an Eagles game this year also. So I'm pretty excited about that. Yeah, the Denver Week 5 is likely to be the Jim Nantz, Tony Romo crew. So I'll hopefully be on the sideline for that one.
Not confirmed
just yet. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Nice.
Get a home game. get to stay at home for once. So
I like that. Yeah, that'd be good. I'd like to see that. All right. Last but not least, am I out of line? Am I wrong? Like, am I out of my head? I know I'm wrong. Am I out of my head? I didn't know that like Memorial Day was this weekend.
What? I mean, you have a lot going on, Sean. Don't get it twisted. Right. Your life's a little upside down at the moment. So
I thought Memorial Day weekend was next weekend. I thought like next weekend was Memorial Day weekend. My wife tells me yesterday, like it's Memorial Day Friday, and I'm like, what? No, it's not. Like Memorial Day weekend's the following weekend. I didn't see anything though. I didn't see any specials. I didn't see like no fanfare. No, like I don't know. I just thought there was more of a buzz about Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah. I haven't seen much at all, to be honest with you. So it could just be we're getting a little older and all the buzz is sent somewhere else. All the buzz is on TikTok. I'm not on there. I don't know what to say. So that's what I'm going with, at least.
All right. Good stuff. Kyle Fisher, final thoughts before you get out of here, sir. What are you working on over there?
I'm working on putting together something about Taijuan Walker's role change. I haven't had a chance to speak to him directly, so I know that I had teased that last time out, but I'm interested in that. And then I did find I had a note that I want to kind of expand on with some of the offensive players when I'm back down there for the Braves series. I had asked Rob Thompson about an approach that Alec Bohm had taken. He's normally a free swinger, swings early in the count. JT Realmuto hit right before him and grounded out on the first pitch. First pitch to Bowman's middle. He takes it, ends up grinding out a 7 or 8 pitch at bat. Still gets the single. And I asked Thompson if that was something that they had to tell him, hey, go slow down, or is that something that is just an evolution of his game? And he said that it's something that they preach, being cognizant of what the other half of the team is doing, right? Being cognizant of what our pitcher just went through in that half inning and what we need to do to, if we need to give him extra rest, let's grind out these at bats. So I want to ask the guys kind of what being cognizant of all facets of the game means to them, and if they feel like it's kept them more connected as a team, more connected to the game itself, more ready for any situation, especially with how much shifting and pinch hitting they do late in games. So it's an idea. Don't know quite where it is, but that's what I'll be working on when I'm down to the park next week.
I like it. Kyle Fisher, 45 on socials. As always, representing the team over at Philly Sports Network. Check out what they have to offer. Great coverage on all of Philadelphia sports. That's at Philadelphia SN. I know your guy Liam is a big footy fan, a big, he's across the pond, so he's got to be a soccer fan. We've got a big one with Manchester United coming up here. So it's the first time that I'm actually sitting down with a little bit of hype, a little bit of just excitement for my team in so long. And I am ready for this team to lose 2-0, maybe 3-1. And I'm just prepared. But we'll see what happens. It's
it should be fun though.
Two quick ones before we get out of here. I did see on my television that AJ Hawk is representing the Eagles. He's wearing an Eagles jersey. I don't know if that's Alshon Jeffrey. That looks like a weird jersey. I don't know if it's an Eagles jersey. Anyways, second thing is Hard Knocks has said that they are going to have the Buffalo Bills this year.
That'll be very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I like that team. They got some characters. I'm sure that they'll stay away from any Sean McDermott rah-rah speeches until they have a chance to vet what he's going to talk about. But other than that, what? It happened.
No, yeah. No, I know. No, I just forgot about it. I forgot about it.
Yeah. So I'm sure that they'll do a long editing session on that one before they release it. But you got some great characters up there. I love Deion Dawkins, former Temple guy on the offensive line up there. Just got a new contract, I believe. So they have some great guys up there. Who doesn't want to see more about Josh Allen? And they're in a tough spot. So it's going to be really interesting to watch them. You know, they've had a few years fallen short behind Kansas City. Kansas City falls short against the Eagles in the Super Bowl. What's their attitude going to be like off the field? So it'll be nice to see them, especially because they feel like they've been little brothered a little bit out in the AFC to Kansas City for these last few years. Perfect season to do it. Can they finally get over the hump after Kansas City had to kind of walk away from the Super Bowl with their tail between their legs?
Yeah, that was on my television screen yesterday. Is this the year that the Buffalo Bills finally get past the Kansas? I'm like, guys,
it's on your screen every year.
Yeah, like,
and they get past them.
Come on, you know, just we got to find new conversational topics, right? New questions.
Please.
Yeah, it's not that hard. Great job, Kyle. Continue to follow you on all things social. Kyle Fisher 45. Everybody, keep it locked right here to the game. Coming up next, X's into you, followed by Football is King. I'll be back tomorrow with Sam Ostry. More on The Gambler next.